So that puts us on to game 3, the decider. And it looks like Solafid switched back to the deck they had in game 1, the slow, grindy control.
And one thing that's kind of interesting is we have yet to see a Silverguard Knight out of this Lionheart deck. So probably they've taken them out because Nightstar is just so good against Silverguard.
Yeah, that would be a smart adaptation.
And you can also sort of feel it in the way that game 1 went, where they really weren't putting that much on the board. It was very strange, right? It was not how games usually go. So, yeah, it's probably he replaced it with like a Circle of Life or something.
I think he'd run Circle of Life anyway.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of cards that he wants to run, so it's
yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how he would build it if he wanted the solar cards. But... And then here, Droplett has this really aggressive draw, valuing the health on the Iraqi over 4 damage to face there. I think that makes good sense because the Mystic would have a really good trade.
Yeah, definitely. And since they did that, it's actually making this Regalia a bit weaker.
This is terrible.
It's probably what you're going to do anyway, but yeah, it's not very good. It's going to get cleared off immediately next turn.
Definitely not the kind of Regalia you want to be playing. But one thing that is nice about it is that for Regalias like this, your opponent is basically going to run the whole board into your face, almost guaranteed. So you take some damage, but at least it is 4 mana and clear their board.
Yeah, and it saves you some HP as well. So
yeah, heals you. Well, yeah, it's kind of weird because they're running the whole board into your face when otherwise they wouldn't. But yeah, it does save you 4 HP compared to if they did that without the Regalia. I mean, Solafid must not be too concerned about their health with this hand, right? 15 points of healing in hand.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a little concerned because this is Iraqi can get very, very big, so it's scary.
Oh, it is a big Iraqi. But the good news is that's in the past. Put that behind us and move on. Forget about that.
And then this is a tough turn for Solafid. Droplett has done a really good job putting this pressure on. Spending your whole turn with the Circle of Life here, probably not plan A. I think Solafid would have liked a Tempest there or something.
Yeah, maybe they'll get an opportunity this coming turn.
Yeah, the Droplet is doing a really good job making the Tempest not very good here. Because, of course, if you Tempest, then if Solafid Tempest, then they're really inclined to go down and clear the Primus because they don't want Droplet ramping to 7, because that's Revenant. But, of course, if they could choose, they would rather clear the Rejuve than Primus. So.
Yeah, I think on bounce it is better to just prevent Droplet getting to 7 mana. If they can start chaining Revenants out, that's probably a good avenue for them to win the game.
Absolutely. I mean, Solafid, I think they basically had to make that play, but yeah, Droplett is playing really well. So here, don't really want to be playing Archons against Lionheart, because they do have this really good answer in the form of Martyrdom. So now, sort of that pressure that we've been feeling is sort of evaporating. Right now Solafid has more breathing room because they're basically up 3 mana, and that 3 mana is Bone-Blade Adept here, and this Sundrop Elixir.
Yeah, that's quite nice, because it's allowed them to have this nice defensive position, which could be saving them here.
Yeah, I mean, they're still in a decent amount of danger, but... Oh, and here this is interesting. Droplett is guessing that Solafid is not running Holy Immolation, thinking, oh, this kind of deck just doesn't seem like a Holy Immolation deck. Because, of course, if Solafid did have Holy Immolation here, that would be amazing. And in general, when you're playing Revenant, you want to avoid Holy Immolation because that's one of the best answers to it. So that's very heads up by Droplett. Good observation skills. And then here, Solafid with the body block is doesn't die to Double Dark Seed. If the general could hit, they would be dead to Double Dark Seed. So it's really sort of surviving by the skin of their teeth here.
Yeah, they played a bit into Grasp of Agony, but it's not something we'd seen of Droplett, so not going to be a punish here.
Yeah, that's always a tough one because Grasp is so good if your opponent doesn't play around it. I wonder if Solafid considered body blocking with the Windblade Adept. They're probably playing around Dancing Blades, and that's why they didn't do that.
Yeah, I was wondering that, because if you block with the Windblade Adept, in theory you've got the higher HP unit blocking for you. The thing with that, though, is if they do have the removal, then they sort of get it both ways. They get to remove your stronger unit, and they get to then use that removal to go through and attack you. Yeah,
absolutely. I think Demonic Lure is a really good example there, where if they Demonic Lure the Alcuin in the situation that we did have, then that's not as good because the Windblade is right there. Here, it feels like Solafid is kind of turning the corner because Archon is a hard card for Abyssine to answer. We haven't really seen any of the answers from Droplett, and if they're playing Darkseed, not really sure where they'd have room in their deck to run something like Dark Darkness. Yeah, Archon's one of those cards where if it continues to be as prevalent as I feel like it might be, people might need to change their decks just slightly to accommodate being able to remove it. Yeah, absolutely. It's an important part of the meta, and if you don't have a plan for it, then things are going to go badly. That's one of the big strengths of the deck that Solafid is playing, is that it's very, very good anti-Archon deck. And again, here you see that they're doing their thing, right, of Martyrdom, Alcuin, and that's sort of that engine that they're getting going. Yeah. And here they're using, Solafid is using the text on Archon to good effect. Without the Archon effect, they might be a little bit more worried about double Darkseed. But of course you can't double Darkseed with an Archon on the board. So Droplett is doing a good job here of keeping up the pressure while playing around this Archon and clearing board a good amount. The heal on the Revenant here is really good because Circle of Life doesn't clear it anymore. So maybe Solafid's going to have to Martyrdom it when really they'd rather Martyrdom this Archon. Yeah, that's pretty smart, especially as you know for a fact they do have a Martyrdom in hand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that healing ended up being 4 damage to Solafid. That was really good. Still looking pretty rough for Droplett here. Yeah, have we seen all 3 Revenants come out now? Is that the last one? Or is that the second one? Yeah, I think it might be. The first Revenant was on that Rejuve, the turn that they didn't play around Holy Immolation. I think this is only the second one. So I think that Droplett has been through 2 Revenants and 2 Archons. Definitely running out of ways to win the game at this point. Wow, Keeper. That's pretty sick. Keeper on Araki, not the sickest, but still sick. Yeah, I wonder what the reason they're running it is.
Wonder if they're perhaps they're probably not, but it'd be pretty cute to run a like a Darkfire sacrifice and get a little 1/1 Spectral Revenant for 4 damage. It's probably not even that good, but definitely a bit funny. Wonder if Solafid's gonna martyrdom this keeper here. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, well here I think Solafid is counting. They know that Droplett has been through 2 Archons, 2 Revenants, and so they're saying, oh, you know, there aren't that many threats left in Droplett's deck. I don't need to be saving this martyrdom anymore. I think the keeper is maybe just a toolbox thing, right? We saw Nightstar Assassin, we saw Shroud. Sometimes these Abyssine decks play Dancing Blades, though here because we've seen Shroud and Keeper and Darkseed, and maybe Triple Archon, at least Double Archon. Maybe Droplett doesn't have room for the Dancing Blades also.
That's interesting seeing the Shroud dispel the Archon and not the Zir. I guess they've got to back up.
Yeah, this must be a setup for Double Darkseed.
Yeah. I think possibly that's also why Solafid martyrdomed last turn, because they learned from the first game that Zir is not a reliable way to have extra HP, and your opponent having 3 extra damage on board could have been enough to kill you.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people aren't running very much Dispel in this meta, so normally Zir is a little bit safer, but Droplett is running a good amount of Dispel. So, and here Solafid sort of switching gears, says I'm at 20 health, I have a Regalia equipped, I'm just gonna start bashing you.
Yeah, they finally used all their martyrdoms, or maybe there's one left, but they've used a hell of a lot, so Droplet's probably now on the downward trend.
Wow, this is a lot of damage all of a sudden. Maybe Solafid got a bit complacent and wasn't really expecting this. And I mean, this removal is kind of awkward, right? Tempesting and taking 2, not great.
Yeah, they're relatively secure, mostly on account of having this fresh Archon on board. It stops that double Darkseed that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the last Revenant from Droplett.
Yeah, I mean, it's Solafid's probably still going to be okay, but Droplett is doing a great job of making an opening for themselves, given how overwhelming the game was just a few moments before. Yeah, and this is sort of the only line they can they can take at this point. Obviously, floating 4 mana, play a 1/4 is with 6 cards in hand. That's kind of surprising. I wonder what cards Droplett could have at hand where that was their best play.
And Solafid could have put the Rustcore down to put a full surround, which would give you a good chance of lethal next turn. But there's no rush when you're playing this slow deck, Like, what can Droplett do here?
Yeah, I think probably what they were thinking was that if Droplett equips a Spectral Blade, then that can be a lot of damage if you don't have a good clear for it. So valuing the opening gambit a little bit more. But yeah, Droplett fought valiantly, dead on board.
GG's.
Yeah. Played